peeps, welcome to my channel for something brand new and disturbing. So I work in a bar and at the moment I'm helping this old guy who I love him so much. I'm helping this guy find a house share and he's not very like internet savvy and I'm like, no, that ad is fake, that's fake, they're gonna steal your money, they're gonna lock you in a cage. Have you seen the film Girl in the Basement? That will be you! But it reminded me of all the old weird stories of the house shares that I have lived in my short lifetime. So I am now married, been with my partner a very long time, and before I moved in with him, I was in a very long-term relationship and I lived in multiple house shares from that relationship, after that relationship, until where I am now. If you don't know what a house share is, it's essentially where you rent one room and you all share the bathroom, the living room, that's a joke, the garden, the communal spaces, the kitchen, but you pay for your room and what is in your room is yours. That is your space. Before we get into the video, please hit that subscribe button because, I don't know, it's nice. I've been keeping all these stories in for so long. I've mentioned a few of these things like here and there throughout videos in my YouTube timeline, and this is finally sitting down and being like, listen bitch, this is the real tea of Ipswich house shares. So when I was 15 years old, practically a fetus, I moved out of my mum's house. My mum and I did not get on. I was in a relationship with someone older and I moved in with him. He was already living in a house share in Chantry, Sheldrake Drive if you're in Chantry. Oh my god. And there used to be a cat that lived there. Was actually like 2 or 3 cats. It's like the only thing I loved about living in that house. One had no tail, we called it no tail. One had one eye. And I think one had 3 legs and we just called them the Pirate Gang. Arr, kitties! Come to get some cow chow. They don't eat cow chow. But we used to always see them when we'd walk to the shops. They'd come and like get strokes and that, and oh, I do miss No Tail because that one lived opposite me, so every time I left the front door that cat would come and say hello. And this bitch do love the pussy. I'm gonna change everybody's name throughout this video, by the way, just because there are some touchy subjects in this video and I do still live in the town and, you know, I moved into my house share with my ex. In the upstairs of the house was our room, the landlord, his son, but his son was like never really there. I don't know where he was, I don't know if he lived there or he moved there, like lived away and just, I don't know, that was his room. And there was a room rented in the dining room downstairs. So we could communally use the kitchen and the living room. But we weren't really allowed in the living room. That was Ronald's place, the landlord. I got to remember these names. We could use the garden, but I think in the like 5 years I lived in this house, I don't think I ever used the garden once. I had a shared shower and bathroom and they were separate as well, which was good because if you needed to have a shit and someone was in the shower, you didn't have to wait for each other. So this was my first experience of a house share and this house was filthy. This is why I will never forget this house. It was disgusting. Living in a house with 1, 2, 3, when the son was there, 3, 4 grown men. And I'm talking grown, like this, like 40 plus, and I was a 15-year-old girl. And I was like the only one that would clean up these communal areas. Admittedly, not very well. I'm 15 and I ain't doing shit. The house was disgusting, like proper. If you went on 4 in a bed, babe, you're getting 1 star, and those people are not coming again. So let's talk about the real deal. My partner at the time and I were not working. I was 15, I had just finished school. I had finished school early and I was doing Prince's Trust training courses. So when you leave school early, you have to be in some form of education. So I was doing entry to employment courses at the YMCA and they were amazing and they helped me out so freaking much. Yeah, I was in my E2E courses. My ex at the time was not working, so he was at home all the time. So we couldn't afford internet. So we used to use our landlord's computer, which was in his bedroom. We had permission to do it and I just used, this was MySpace days. We'd go on MySpace and sell handmade shit on eBay for extra income. So we would be on the internet pretty much all day while Ronald was at work, and then when he came home, off he went. Sorry, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. I went into his room one day, and it was like an old, the old desk computer, so it wasn't a laptop, it was a full computer setup. And I was sitting at the computer, you know, looking around because I'm a nosy bitch. This is why I can't drive, because I look around too much. I'm a people watcher. I like to just look. So I'll be doing something, like I'm doing it while I keep having to stop this video because I keep just go, oh, my room's pretty cool. But I was looking around and I looked on the floor, right next to me, and there was a pile of what I can only innocently describe as icing sugar and water mixed together to make icing on the floor. This icing on the floor was white. I didn't touch it. I'm not like, oh, I was on my fingers somewhere. I was on my hands and knees, you know, fingers in that icing. Fuck no. You know, I was young, but when you're going out with someone who's manipulating you, your whole relationship was just sex, basically. So I was very well adverse to what male juices look like. And I know on the I can't believe I'm saying this. I know that what was on the floor was hunky spunky. There was hunky spunky on the floor that had been left just like, ugh. And I get it. Do I get it? I don't get it. I get it. It's your bedroom. Do what you want in the privacy of your own bedroom. But bitch, when you know other people are clearing up, are going in your room that next day, clear it up. Clear it up. I think it's fucking wild. Ronald, you datty bitch. I do have an update on Ronald, but I'm gonna get through the rest of this house share first. This unfortunately is not my only incident involving an older gentleman in a house share. My next incident is in the same house, Sheldrake Drive, Chantry, but no tail. Oh, I hope you're living free, no tail. I hope your tail grew back in heaven. I mean, it was quite old when I knew it, so it must be dead now. So one day, you know, shared shower. I was taking a shower, splish splash, I'm having a bath. Now, I love to just, I'm a water waster. I'm sorry, if there's ever a drought in my town, I mean, I will follow the rules, but reluctantly. I like to sit in the bath, get all splashy splishy, and have the shower running at the same time. And I know it wastes water, but it washes my hair as I'm like, I'm playing in the bubbles, making like a bubble beard and everything, and I love it. I'm sat in the bath, I'm washing my hair, and I don't know how, I don't know if I looked up, I was doing my weird like look around, like, oh, is there any spider shit in the corner today? Good choice of words, Emily. And I looked up at the shower head, and there was shit on it. There was shit. I swear on my daughter's life, there was shit on the shower head. And why am I admitting to this? And I had just been sat in the shower with the shower head falling on my hair with shit on it. And I'll tell you what, I could have broken my neck. I've never jumped out of a bath so quickly in my life. And I got out and picked the shower head off the pipe, you know, they have the stands. I picked it up and I was like, I called my ex and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I can't remember the exact interaction, but I imagine it was this you? Honestly, there were many more. Like, those two were the biggest incidences of dirty men in that house. But oh my god, those two things will literally haunt me for the rest of my life. I've spoken about these in videos before, but I will never forget these. These were my first experiences of a house share, spunk on the floor and shit on the shower head. Don't worry guys, like, I am clean now. Cleaning that shower head was probably the nicest thing my ex ever did for me. Ugh. Datty. Update on Ronald. So I moved out of that house. We lived in there till I was 18. I moved in, I think I said 5 years. I moved in at 15 and we moved out when I was 18. 17, 18. It was when I was in college, so yeah, about 17, 18. So I didn't quite live there for 5 years. My math isn't great. I left school early, what do you expect? And I heard an update on Ronald a few years later. Ronald not being his real name. I heard through the vine of grapes that Ronald was later arrested for P filings. Cabinets of the P filing, you know, filings of the P's. And do you know what? That did not surprise me at all. That did not surprise. What grown man lets a 15-year-old girl move into their house? Do you know what? If I found out today that there was cameras all around that house, that would not surprise me one single bit. It was that kind of dirty, dirty house. And again, like, the fact that I lived there, like, disgusts me. If my daughter ever took me to a house like that and was like, this is where I'm living, I'd be like, no you're not, babe. Use a cardboard box, sleep on the street, it's safer. Well, not really, like, she'd be living with me, but, you know, like, it was, guys, it was dirty. So that's my first experience of a house share. And after that, 17, 18, my ex and I moved into a flat in the town centre of Ipswich, and the flat was pretty nice actually. It was really, it was perfect for people watching. It had these two massive windows that you could just sit, and right opposite where we used to live was where all the day drinkers used to sit, and oh my god, the drama. I hope you all got the help you needed. To be fair, I don't see a lot of them about anymore, so hopefully that means, like, they got, you know, they got help. But the drama, I literally had an armchair sat next to the window, and I would just sit there like a nosy old bitch granny. So when my ex and I split up, I don't know how old I was. We lived in the flat for a couple of years, and my ex and I split up, and I moved in with my best friend. I moved in with Charisse, Miss Jigglepuff, and it was, oh my god, it was like the best house, aside from where I am now, because this is my home. That was the best house share I have ever lived in my life. Like, party central. I met Charisse through her cousin. I met her at college, and then I met Charisse, and yeah, we've been friends ever since. So I moved in with Charisse when I left that relationship because he wasn't paying the rent. I was in college, he was working at a little goth shop in town, and he wasn't paying our rent. So we got evicted, and I didn't want to move in with my mom. I had got my independence, I didn't want to give it up, and I messaged Charisse and I was like, I don't suppose you have a room I can rent? And she was like, yes I do. And I moved in with her. We lived with another housemate, one of Charisse's acquaintances. Funny fellow. The stories I could tell you about Hampton Road. Babe. Well, I don't know how long we were living there. I don't think it was long. Maybe a year, maybe slightly longer. But it was fun. It was everything I needed. I've got a few pictures of some of our house parties. It was like barbecues, house parties, drinking, sex, debauchery, like all the time. Charisse actually told me a well funny story. The neighbours, just before I moved in, the neighbours used to play really loud rave music. They were proper, like, all-night ravers. And one day she'd, like, had enough because she was care worker. She just really needed her sleep. And one day she, like, shouted over the garden wall, like, I need to get some fucking sleep, turn the music off. And she told me that they stopped the music for about 10 minutes and then they started playing Faithless. I can't get no sleep. And I think that sums up that house perfectly. That is the vibe of Hampton Road, and do you know what? I miss that house because it was so much fun. And we had house cats. I think one was called Gizmo, and the cat got pregnant and gave birth. Took all the kittens under the shed, and then Charisse and I spent hours one day getting these kittens out from under the shed. That was the first and last day I've ever seen a cat give birth, and I was so proud of that damn kitty. Living with one of your close friends is so insane. It can be the best decision, but it can also be the worst decision because you know what your friends are like, but you also don't know what they're like 24/7. Luckily, this was a really good experience for me, and we did end up living together again. But just in this house, I loved it. It gave me some of the best memories ever. Like, we would frequently go clubbing in London. We'd go to Club Antichrist a lot and then come back and just crash out. And it would, oh, do you know what? Oh, I love talking about this because it was just a highlight. I had left this horrible relationship and my friend was there for me and she took me in. I'm your mother now. It literally saved me because I'd only just started dating Ben. I'd probably been with Ben like 2 days, so I couldn't move in with him. My mum couldn't have me. I literally had nowhere to go, and I had pets as well. I had like 4 rats, and a gerbil and a ferret, and they were all in separate cages, and they were big cages, and so finding somewhere to live and a house share at a reasonable price was so difficult. So to this day, I am so thankful to Charisse for taking me in, because I would not have parted with my animals, especially my ferret Loomis. Like, that bitch was coming with me no matter where we went, and and I'm so glad that I had her to just keep us together. So, oh my god, we had to evict the guy who lived upstairs. What should we call him? Gerald. We had to evict Gerald. Things just started getting weird. He wasn't getting on with us. It was just us two and Gerald, and we were on the first level of the house and Gerald was on the top level, and he started getting weird. Charisse and I came to the decision that we would ask him to leave because he was creating a really weird atmosphere in the house, and I will never forget this. The day that he was asked to leave, I came home from work. I was working at Primark at the time, and I came in and he was like, we had these red leather, really posh couches. They were amazing. And I came in and he was sat in the living room, like, just like looking at the telly on the wall or something, and he had new Vivienne Westwood boots on, and I've never seen Vivienne Westwood boots in my life. They were like pirate boots. Like, I don't know if that means anything to anyone, but I walked in, I was like, hey, are you alright? Are you okay? And he was like, hey, babe, I've just got these new Vivienne Westwood boots. Like, completely ignoring the fact that he now had to find somewhere to live. He'd blown all his money on Vivienne Westwood boots, and it was like, great, can you live in them? But he did end up moving out. I believe he ended up getting his own flat somewhere, but I literally have not seen him since. It just reminds you, like, when you live with friends or acquaintances, sometimes it can go nice and sometimes it can go a little bit skewiff. So we had to move out of that house. I can't actually remember why we had to move out of that house, but we had to probably too many noise complaints from the neighbours. Sorry neighbours, we were young and dumb and partied hard. So but we ended up moving out, and we had to move out really quickly. I think Charisse moved in with her cousin, because it was just us two at this time, and then I moved into another house share. So I ended up moving into my third and final house share. Oh, Laura. Laura. So, my landlady, this is my first landlady, was called Laura. Name's changed for safety purposes? I don't know. The first day that I knocked on her door, I was on the phone to her. Now, one thing about me is I'm very good at timekeeping. You tell me to be somewhere, I will be there half an hour early. I will be there early. I am an early bird. I will make sure I am early just so I am not late. So whatever time, I can't remember the exact time, whatever time we agreed on the phone for me to be at her house to look at the room, I was there. And I was there with Ben, and we checked out the room, and she was like rude. She'd obviously been to the shops or something to get candles, stuff to make the room look nice. And then I had turned up at the correct time, and she moaned at me that I was early. She said that I was supposed to be there, but I was actually on time. So I was early, but I was there at the correct time. Does that make sense? She said I was supposed, like, so for instance, I was supposed to be there at 12, and I turned up at 12, and she said I was supposed to be there at 1. I was like, why would I be there at 1? 1 is an odd time for me. 12 is an even morning to afternoon time. I would have said 12. Like, to this day, I know I would have said 12. I know how my brain works. So, that should have been my first sign. That should right there have been my first sign. To give you an idea of how dodgy this street was, there's a proper drug hotel in Ipswich called the Checkers. I think that's what it's called, and it was just by that. The house on the corner, like 3 doors away from the house I was living in, burnt down. There was homeless people living it, and it burnt down, and I always sleep with my phone on silent. Sorry, we're getting ahead of ourselves. But I always sleep with my phone on silent, and Ben was ringing me, and he like came banging on the door like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was having like the best sleep of my life." And it's like, "The house like next door burnt down. Are you alright?" I'm like, I did not hear fire engines. I did not hear anything. I was just sleeping. But I was desperate. I had to move out of Hampton Road, and I moved in with Laura. So in Laura's house there was someone at the top of the house who I actually ended up working with last year, reunited. And then it was Laura and her husband, and then it was another room with our bathroom, and then it was my room. So there was 3 guests, like house sharers, and Laura and her husband in this house. So I was looking around the room, I liked it. It was a little bit more than I was expecting to pay, but the room was nice and it was pretty big. After we looked at this room, actually, we went to look at another house share, and it was so far away. It was up like Stoke, and the guy was super weird. Super weird. He was like, "Yeah, you can't have guests, it's just you and I here," and like, oh, would you look at the time, I gotta go, I gotta feed my pet worm. Yeah, be careful, kids. Like, when you're looking for house shares, just remember that these people are strangers. Be careful. I ended up moving into Laura's house, and I was there for quite a while, maybe like 3 or 4 years. And this was all while I was dating Ben, and I was working full time. So I was literally only at this house. I was at Ben's a lot, but I was literally only at this house to sleep and evenings, pretty much, like just to chill. Oh, daytimes I was out. I was working, I was seeing friends. I was not in this house. So my room was essentially a dining room. So it was a dining room that they had turned into a bedroom, and the walls were paper thin. So off the kitchen was a little laundry room with a washer and dryer, and that was for Laura and her husband. That was for the whole house. So Laura and her husband and the house sharers. They started off great, like, or you could use it whenever you want. After about a year or two, a note. Oh, she loved a note. Laura loved a note. You know, she had all our numbers, but she loved a note that changed to like an A4 bit of paper stuck on the glass of the washing machine. Housemates can only use washing machine on a Sunday. So who's going to use it more? 3 housemates that are working and, you know, need fresh work clothes every day, or a couple that the husband didn't even really live there because he was from another country, so he used to go back for like 6 months and then come back for 6 months. As far as I know, she didn't work. She lived off our cash in hand rent that she wasn't telling the tax man about. I feel like it was such a controlling environment, and now that I'm like away from it, it's so easy to see. But yeah, the washing machine was like given to us and then snatched away, and yeah, we could only do washing on Sundays. I ended up taking all my washing to Ben's house, and I used to have to wash and dry at Ben's house. Because fighting for the washing machine with 2 other people on a Sunday was not easy to do. We also had a shared fridge in the laundry room. So Laura had her own fridge in the kitchen, which we were not allowed to touch, which is fair enough, you know, that's her house, it's her kitchen. We had our own fridge in the laundry room, and we had a shelf each in this fridge. I think there was a freezer, but I didn't really use it because I wasn't really at home. I didn't really have freezer stuff, to be fair. I lived off sandwiches and like things I could make in my room at the time. Anything that involved me leaving my room, I didn't want to do. It was such a hostile environment, that house. I had my shelf in the fridge, and I started off putting like my cheese, oh, love cheese, my cheese, my butter and everything in the fridge, and over time that stuff would just go missing and get used, so I stopped using the fridge. I bought a little mini fridge and kept that in my room. People like just, I know it's like a petty thing, like someone's stealing my cheese or my butter, like cheese is expensive. Don't touch other people. Like, it is really simple though. If it's not yours, don't touch it. If you didn't buy it, don't touch it. I bet it was Laura. I bet she was making like lasagna one day and she's like, oh, I need some butter and some cheese. I'll just steal Emily's. Bitch doesn't use the fridge anyway. I didn't use the fridge because people were taking my stuff. You ready for some gross? Are you ready for some gross? So top floor was Catherine, and then it was Laura and her husband, and then this floor was the bathroom and that room. And there was someone in that room, but I never met them. They moved out not long after I lived there, so they were gone. And then it was my room on the next floor down. But about a year after I moved in, what should we call him? Damien. Damien moved in. Damien was an older gentleman. I actually worked with his wife at Primark, which, oh my god, this was an eye-opener. And I didn't realise it was his wife, but I lived with Damien. And I used to because it was a house share, like when I'm at home, I don't wear pyjamas. Like I've got my hoodie down here as a blanket. I just wear a baggy t-shirt and that's it. But in a house share, I would always put bottoms on, like pajama bottoms, and I make sure I was covered up in case you ran into someone in the hallway. Not long after Damien moved in, I would go for a wee in the middle of the night, half asleep, not really open my eyes, you know, sit on the toilet, and my feet would be wet. My feet would be soaking wet. I'd be like, oh, what? Like, half asleep, what is this? And for the first few, because this happened a lot, for the first few times it happened, I would just take my trousers off, wash my feet in the sink, and then go back to bed and have a shower in the morning, because I was not having a shower at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Cause I thought it was just water. I thought maybe like someone, I don't know what I thought. I thought it was water. Oh, my sweet innocent brick brain. And then Ben stayed over one night, and it happened when Ben was there. He came down and woke me up and he was like, Emily, someone's pissed all over your bathroom floor. And I was like, was it you? Is this your way of telling me that you're the one that keeps pissing on the floor? And he's like, no, I'm not. I think I knew it was we all along. I was just in denial because I'd already lived in one shit house place. And I just didn't want this to be another one. And I was depressed. And it's like, are we really doing this again? God, this was so gross. And it was a lot. It was a lot. It was all over the seat. It was a lot. But it was always cleaned up in the morning. I got to stress that. I cannot stress that enough. This mess was always cleaned up in the morning. So I was starting to think, if Ben hadn't told me that he'd also seen it, I would have genuinely believed that I was making this up. Because I would go for a wee in the middle of the night, half asleep, feet are soaked, clean them, go back to bed, go for a wee in the morning, it's gone. But I was chatting to, what should we call her? Lucy. I was chatting to Lucy, a new lady who started at Primark, and she was like, I've just split up with my husband, he was an alcoholic, he's just moved into a house share on blah 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 road. And I was like, oh, I live on that road. And she's like, oh, his name's Damien. I was like, oh my god, a guy who's called Damien's just moved into my house share. We were gossiping and talking, and she was like, one of the reasons we split up was he was an alcoholic and he just used to get so drunk he would trash things, abuse her, and piss all over the bathroom and the bedroom. Suddenly, these puzzle pieces that I knew were puzzle pieces, like I knew where they went, I just didn't want to push them into the puzzle. Suddenly they were pushed into the puzzle. It wasn't long after that Damien moved out. I will not talk to people if I don't have to. But I spoke to Laura, the landlady, about it, and I was like, look, this isn't fair. I'm paying a lot of money to live here because it was close to the train station, close to town. It was like a desirable area, even though there was a crack house on the corner and a burned down house on the other corner. You know, I deserve to go to the toilet and not be stepping in other people's oceans of urine. But it wasn't long after that he moved out. And then Charisse moved into his room, and then we started Party House 2.0 because our house was really close to a nightclub that is now closed down, so we used to go there like every week, and we made so many friends and like bring people home. Well, I didn't, I was with Ben, but it was a party a muted party house because it was still Laura's house, but it was so much fun living with her again. Our bedrooms at Laura's house did not have locks on the doors. Not a single room had locks. And I didn't think about it at the time, but now I'm like, shit, all my personal stuff was in my room. Anybody could have come and gone anytime, any point of the day, because I wasn't there during the day. I bet that nosy bitch Laura like went into my room and tried on my underwear. Probably got into my bed and had a little like wiggly worm burrito moment. We also were not, this house as well, we were not allowed in any other room. We could use the kitchen and the laundry room, but we were not allowed, like not allowed to use the living room. Like in my first house share, I wasn't really allowed to use the living room, but I could use it when the landlord, Ronald, was at work. In Laura's house, you are not allowed to use that living room. She was there. That was her family room. Family room. They also had a basement room. That was also their family room. Like, I get it, this is your personal house, but you can't invite strangers to live in your personal house and then not expect them to want to make it a home. But yeah, it was a whole vibe. It was not fun. By this point as well, I only had my ferrets. I had 2 ferrets. I gained a ferret in my last house share with Charisse. My rats had passed away, they were all really old, and my gerbil had a heart attack. Oh my god, it was so dramatic. So I only had 2 ferrets, and I was luckily allowed to bring them into Laura's house. So for that, I am extremely grateful. One night my ferret escaped and ran havoc around the house. Oh my god, it was a nightmare. It was so dramatic. It ran into upstairs room, and I was like quietly chasing it around the house, like, where are you, you little shit? Come back here. Chippy, come back. So dramatic. Right, I lost my train of thoughts. My daughter came upstairs. Mum duties. And then Ben and I were looking at moving in together, and we were looking at houses, and we were in the process actually of buying a different house, and that all fell through, and then we found this house, and we've been here ever since. And this house was made for us. It's so perfect and love it so freaking much. I'm glad in a way, like not glad I got shit in my hair and spunk on the floor and piss on my feet, but I'm glad in a way that I had those weird experiences, because I feel like if I had just gone from my parents' house to my partner's, like this house, and been really, really happy, I wouldn't have grown up in a way that I needed to. I wouldn't have been like this thick-skinned and this ungrossed out by things, and you know, like you know, it's not nice to see icing sugar on the floor, but I'm not as grossed out by things as I feel like I should be. I don't know. No, I shouldn't have. Like, that's nasty. A 15-year-old seeing that nasty. I hope you went to jail, sir. Actually, for a while after I moved out, Laura kept calling me, and I have no idea why, because I've had the same phone number for literally years. I won't change my phone number. It's so easy to remember, and I love it. And she kept phoning me like every few weeks. I never once picked up, and I was like, why? I've moved out. I've got nothing to do with you anymore. Why are you calling me? Is the tax man after you? Does he want to know how much I gave you? Because bitch, I will dob you in. Ben actually ended up answering the phone call and was like, hello, I don't know who you are. This is not Emily's number. Like, I'm giving it away now in case she watches my channel. What's my number? Why were you calling me? You could have texted me. I'm a text girl. I don't want to speak to you on the phone. I would rather die than call the doctors. Don't phone me. But yeah, I ended up blocking her. And then Charisse and I went out for food a few months ago, and we saw her and her family in the restaurant, and it was like a buffet restaurant, so you kept getting up and getting like school dinners. You go and get your own food and that. And it was so awkward, because every time we sat down, we would just be like, oh my god, they're looking at us. Do you think they recognise us? Do you think that, of course they recognise us. We're very heavily tattooed. Like, we look the same-ish, just older than we did back then. It was so awkward. But then we sat there eating our food and just reminisced about the times that we lived in her house, and yeah. At least I can say that that house was clean. Aside from the piss on the floor, the house was clean. Right. I think that's it. If you are looking at house shares, please just check, landlords always check your references. Please check out landlord references if you can. Check out the house. If something feels off, please put your safety first as well and check references, check reviews. Be safe because there are a lot of fake adverts. You know, make sure your money is getting paid directly to a legit landlord. You're going to have somewhere to stay. You've got a contract. Make sure you have a contract, a legally binding, signed by both people contract. Without a contract, you can get kicked out and they can do whatever the fuck they want and you do not have a leg to stand on. So make sure you have that. But yeah, I do still think house shares in general are a great way for you to save some money because they're usually just one bill. And when I split up with my ex, there's no way I could afford to live in a flat by myself. So living with Charisse and just paying for a room would literally kept me off the streets. It kept me from being homeless. Just be safe. Right, before I go, I have a massive shout out to do to Jackie. Thank you so much, Jackie, thank you so much, Jackie, for watching my channel, for supporting me. I hope you enjoyed these weird stories. I hope you don't have any weird icing, I was gonna say the word. I hope you don't have any weird icing on the floor stories because you deserve better, Jackie. You deserve the world. But no, thank you. But yes, you do. But thank you so much for supporting my works and enjoying and liking what I do. I hope you enjoyed this, Jack. Can I call you Jack? Are we on that level of friendship yet? But yeah, thank you so much, my darling. And anyone else watching, if you enjoyed this, please hit that subscribe button. And if you can, check out my Patreon because it really does help out my channel and allows me to continue to do what I love to do. And hopefully what you enjoy watching me do too. And if you sat through this long ass video, congratulations. Here's your round of applause. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you very soon with another video. Not from a house share. Much love, boobs. Take care of yourself. And most of all, stay weird.